And we're live. Hello, dear star shines. Welcome to another edition of the Lunchtime Chat. Hello. This is our first chat of the Gregorian calendar 2025. Welcome, everybody. I'll give everybody a moment to get on board. For those of you who are new, my name is Christina, and I am an acceleration expert, a consciousness acceleration expert. Sorry, my brain. Woo. And we are here to talk about those topics and issues that are significant for us starseeds, wayshowers, new paradigm visionaries. We have those capacities, we have abilities that are not embraced yet by our larger human family. Therefore, we have perspectives that are very unique to us and very rarely addressed on the level that we see them. So I am here to give, to the best of my ability, a liberated perspective to those pieces and perceptions and narratives that really give us a hang up. Like we're not clear on how to navigate with sovereignty, how to navigate with autonomy in relationship to these dawning transitions. This world is full of chaos and change at this time. And we have a lot of work to do, dear star shines, and how to alchemize and bring forward these things with the perspective of an empowered, awakened human. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. All right. So there are a few things I want to talk about. I'm still going to be talking about rhythms and time. And I also want to tie in consciousness with this as well, because the quality of our consciousness, the things that we believe are true, the things that inform our actions, both conscious and subconsciously, inform what kind of timing we're living to, what kind of sequence of events we're setting our experience up for. So that's what I want to talk about today. So we had our new year. This is the Gregorian calendar new year. This is a year that has no astrological, celestial significance in any way, shape, or form. It is purely in the 4D field. So this is a rhythm that exists only because globally all humans agree that this is the turn of the year. Okay? There are other calendars that are in our consciousness that move to a different rhythm, and such as the solar calendar. The solar calendar means the new year happens on the solstice, which is when sun goes into Capricorn. This is the longest night of the year. So celestially, it has a significance. And then you have another calendar that's in everybody's awareness worldwide, but is not a Gregorian calendar, and that is the Chinese calendar, which is a lunar calendar. Okay. And, because this is based on a natural rhythm, this is a calendar that is going to withstand time more than the Gregorian calendar. And in fact, it's many thousands of years older than the Gregorian calendar that we use. And this particular rhythm, like I said, is a lunar rhythm. And right now we are wrapping up the end of the wood dragon. This is the end of what is, I'm going to say, filtered through the lunar cycles as dragon consciousness. And we're wrapping that up and preparing to go into a time where the consciousness of the serpent, of the snake, is coming to us. I believe the lunar Chinese New Year is the end of January 29th, maybe. And it is the wood snake. So what's very interesting about the sequence of this Chinese calendar is that in this particular moment, we are going from a deep primal consciousness, which is cosmic in nature. This is dragon. And this is a primal cosmic mother creation frequency. It's also a consciousness holding frequency as well. And then that is going into evolving into the snake energy, which is also primal, but it's very specific. at least in the narratives and the understandings of the ancients in of this realm, that it's very specific to the earth. When this is specific to divine cosmic frequencies being embodied by an earth being. And this is deeply encoded in our mystery school teachings. You have, for example, the journey of awakening one's Kundalini. This is the serpent that's coiled at the bottom of the spine. You have Sachamama, the mother of the waters, which is a water boa, which this is an indigenous lore of the Americas. You have the serpent kings, right? Then you go into more we'll say Christian Western traditions where the serpents are used in pretty extreme worship. I don't know if you guys know about the Christian churches that use snakes in their ceremonies, in their they call it something specific. I can't remember the name exactly, but it's not a sermon, but it's a part of Sunday worship. And the serpent in that context initiates a person, it tests a person, it brings forward it forces forward a person's true dedication and faith in the Lord, so to speak, in that jargon. And then you have other sorts of sacred serpents. What I learned about the jungles is that, I don't know if you guys remember the Jungle Book, there was the serpent that was hypnotizing. Well, there are really a species of serpents, of giant snakes, tree snakes, that do that in the jungle. And it's because those snakes exist, no hunter is allowed to go by themselves deep into the jungle, because evidently this snake is absolutely lethal and potent in how it hypnotizes its prey. So we have serpent cults. We have the serpent cults of the East are more around more around harnessing life force energy, primal life force energy to certain means. You have the whole Persian tradition. You have the famous snake charmers, right? So we have a lot of lore in connection with the serpent, and I would say a lot more than even the ancient dragons. Now, if you consider the lore that you're aware of, it's a lot more tangible in that you can pinpoint the narrative or the connection to the teachings to within the last 10,000 years. But when you get to the dragon lore, that is a much more ancient story, much more ancient narrative, and it very easily gets into off planet, right? So the dragon is cosmic mother primal life force energy. It's absolutely potent. Hello, darlings. Happy New Year. And then when we make that transition into the serpent, then that's coming more to earth. In Central South America, there's also the story of Quetzalcoatl, which is the plumed serpent. That's not the same as a dragon. Some people make that mistake, but it is very specific that before Quetzalcoatl is awakened to the divine truth of its nature, it is without wings and walks with its belly on the earth. And this is symbolizing the deep connection of snake consciousness to the Pachamama, to the realm of the mother. So there's a closer association to the sacred feminine force for the different narratives and lore that talk about snakes as being serpent. Most of the time they're speaking of a feminine nature. All right, let me say hello to everybody. Hello, dear sister Sherry. Thank you for being here. Hey, Callie. Good to see you. I was just thinking about you. Wondering if your ears were burning. Hello, Felicia. Welcome, welcome. Happy New Year. Okay. So, it's interesting that the Chinese calendar does prevail for as long as it does. And I am wanting to introduce the idea that it survives because it's based off of a natural rhythm. I know there's an argument on if the moon is natural or not, and I do absolutely acknowledge that narrative as well, because there are ancient stories of the time before the moon. The Cherokee had ancient stories to talk about the times before the moon, and the feminine ovulation cycles were solar, not lunar. Okay. And so there's very deeply rooted stories and conveyance that humanity did exist before the moon, therefore it wasn't always there. So so I do acknowledge that as there are many narratives in the multidimensional I'm going to call it a culture, because there's a lot more of us than there used to be that talk about the moon being towed in and not a natural object, and therefore its rhythm maybe is not so natural, right? And they say the rhythm is not so natural for several reasons. One is because of its eclipse cycles, the way it perfectly aligns to when you have a total lunar and lunar eclipse. The size of the moon perfectly blocks out the sun, and evidently that is the only moon on this entire solar ring that has the proper ratio and distance from the planet to be able to do that from the planet's perspective. So Jupiter has dozens of moons. None of their moons can do that. Saturn has dozens of moons. None of its moons done that. So there's been a pretty significant study that, hello dear Sister Jackie, good to see you. That the moon in its ratio, the way it is very, very unique to Earth. No other moon in the solar ring does that for its, we'll say, hosting planet. And the other reason that is pointed to on the moon being an implanted object is the fact that the same side of the moon faces the Earth all the time. You guys have heard of the dark side of the moon? Okay, the reason why they call that the dark side of the moon is because we never see that side of the moon from our perspective. So no matter where you are in the planet, no matter where you are, north, south, east, west in the planet, you are always looking at the same side of the moon. So that's the other piece that gets referenced when talking about the moon being an artificial construct. Nonetheless, lunar calendars are ancient calendars, and they also, because of I'm going to say the ancientness of its cycle, we can, and the fact that it exists in the solar, you know what I mean? It exists in our reality as a celestial body. That is a very powerful way to anchor a pattern into human consciousness, compared to something that we just simply agree to. Something that we just simply agree to, that means that exists only in the 4D field. And as soon as you have enough people that no longer agree that that is the actual time calendar, then the whole thing will change. So in that way, the Gregorian calendar does not have the rooted, it's not rooted deeply within the subconscious of humanity or in any celestial rhythms of humanity. Therefore, it's extremely, we'll say, vulnerable to be, and lacks roots. When you have, so for example, if you have, say, for some reason, a lot of humans lose their memory. Like they say, the solar flash or the pole shift could actually change our brains in such a way where we don't have memory anymore. That means all bets are off there, unless there's some kind of technology that tells us what the Gregorian calendar was. We would have no reference to it as ever existing, right? Or existing other than technology. And maybe we'll find old calendars and stuff like that, but we wouldn't have a reference of where it begins and where it ends, because there's no celestial reference to the beginning and ending. It's all in the memory of mankind. Versus like a Chinese calendar, say, enough of the humanity forgets someone can come across the Chinese calendar, and because there's a celestial reference of its beginning and an end, they can pick it up and start start keeping time according to the rhythm of that calendar. Make sense? So when things are celestially anchored, it's much more potent than just 4D anchored. And this is something to keep in mind when we're talking about the changing of the paradigm and the fall of constructs, specifically constructs that are kept in place by the consciousness of Saturn, right? Saturn, Chronos, the devil card in Tarot, right? That's all Saturn. Oh, and Capricorn. All those things are layered together to hold that particular frequency. And this is all material, right? It's all material. And if you have enough people that no longer agree that a particular structure is to be used anymore, poof, it's gone. So you have enough people who agree that our government needs change. Do you have enough people who agree that our education system needs change, that our farming system needs changed? Okay, our medical system needs change, which we're all starting to see that crop up. That means it can absolutely be changed. It's not this all-powerful system that's so deeply anchored, there's no way to shift it. All right. So I just want to say that to you guys so you can put this in context of the kinds of shifting that's coming as we start anchoring this cosmic primal energy into our awareness in the coming year. There's a lot of change that is afoot, and it can change. It's just a matter of the collective having critical mass to allow that change to happen. All right, there's a couple comments here. I'm going to go ahead. All right, reading Tanis Howell's book on dragons, very interesting. Oh yes, we know about Tanis Howell. She wrote this wonderful. She's actually written several books. She has a relationship with the elemental beings, and she specifically, there was one book that she wrote that we all really enjoyed in the academy, The Summer with the Leprechaun. That was a really, really good book, but there are several people in our academy that are fans of her work. Thank you for making that recommendation. I'm sure there's some folks that are looking it up. Dear sister, another really I'm going to say high level consciousness book to reference in regards to dragon consciousness is Almeen's book, because she goes as far as, I love Almeen. Her teachings are so deep. She's way, way, way ahead of her time, even now, right? But she goes into bring forward and write out the dragon languages and the evolution, their evolution back to wholeness. So it's really great that we had such a, I'm going to say, eventful year. The year of the dragon, coming into right relationship with cosmic mother frequencies, because the shenanigans that have been going on manipulating human consciousness is happening on many nesting dolls. It's not just the 4D field, it's not just the 3D field, it's not just the telluric, right? It's all these other layers too. It's in the akasha, it's in the very frequency from which light and sound becomes light. So there's many nesting dolls of shenanigans that are influencing our human experience. And in the ancient teachings, the dragons are the ones that are right there next to source consciousness. And the story goes that in order for we'll just say a source to separate its consciousness so it can have an experience separate from self, it requires dragons to hold the memories, hold what has to be forgotten. So the dragon principle is extremely high level in relationship to source. I know there's a whole journey lore to how this works out, and this is a wisdom and knowledge that can be known but not told. And this is why we have the experiences that we do within Light Body, because there's so much deep wisdom that if someone was just to tell you, or if you were to hear it, it really wouldn't have the depth and the meaning that that is the truth, that honors the truth of it, until you have the experience yourself. And then it's like, it's a dawning, like, oh, okay, there's no going back now. You can't unknow it. Okay. So because I know this idea that I just conveyed has some conflicts in its logic, but if you feel into it on an intuitive level, it takes you into a very deep journey into how our fractalization of consciousness works. Okay. How, like, the actual mechanics of it. So it's really fitting that we spent 2024 coming into a right relationship with the expression of a wood dragon, because what, it brought us into what's the true integrity within ourselves in relationship to Cosmic Mother. What is the honest the expression of that within ourself, and of course in the journey of that we also see what the blocks are to the honesty, to the integrity, right? And then we also get to we had an opportunity on who we are in right relationship with that primal force. Many of us in the academy went to well, actually there was a couple trips in BC, which was really great, and then we also went to Scotland with a group, and it's like, there was so much cracking open that happened, that the integration of that takes time. So because of that, I'm really grateful that we have more time to continue to integrate before we have the shifting into that next lunar rhythm of the serpent consciousness. Okay, so hopefully this is making sense the way I'm saying this. Okay, thank you for that. All right, let me check in. We have a couple comments. Hello, darling. Hello, dear starshines. Okay, let's see what we got here. Felicia says Trump gifts us the necessity for change. Heck yeah. yeah. Well, and his team, he's got a whole team of people that are really confronting the status quo, and definitely getting a big reaction, which I find very interesting. I also find it interesting how there are people within our government that are looking for ways to block the agenda using procedural technicalities. So, but this is what I mean. This is an animal that's going to turn. These people eat their own. Just know that there's no one is safe in this level of turnover. So that's what I mean. There's going to be a lot revealed, regardless of how you feel about who this guy is and maybe what you think is his personal character. The fact is, there's a massive agenda for change. And that is something that was brought in by our collective. And that's something to really take time to sort out within oneself. What kind of change do you want to seek? We have capacities in these unseen realms. We have capacities in the quantum realms, okay, that we get a vote. It's not about the how the structures of Saturn works. We actually exist on nesting doll levels that usurp Saturn's realm. Okay, so we all have different layers of self in these different realms, and this is what it means to wake up as a multidimensional. You realize who you are in these different layers of self, and then you also recognize on what level you decide things. Oh, I didn't get to finish that thought. Right. So the nesting dolls of all these are the capacities, the shenanigans that has been messed with in the past. A lot of that has been cleaned up because of the work we've been doing in relationship to the dragon consciousness. Because remember, dragon consciousness is way, way, way up there in refinement with creator. It's like dragon is synonymous with Cosmic Mother. So, we've been spending this entire, well, a lot of us, many decades, but this particular year 2024, there was a lot more opening because of the collective field and the fallen veils and stuff for us to bring the more unseen levels of the shenanigans full circle and reset them and correct the distortions and undo the reversals and the inversions. So we've done a lot of great work in 2024, and that is linked, and because of the nesting dolls being cleaned up in the way that they have been getting cleaned up, there's a whole nother level of expression available now as we anchor it into our Pachamama realm experience through the consciousness of the Sachamama of serpent. Okay. So it's exciting that we did this. It's exciting how the rhythm is all coming together in such a way that is honoring of the higher truths of who we are. So in this way, you know, there was, who was I working with? Okay, was it last year? I think it was the year before last year. So I work with different groups. We have our Light Body group, who is amazing. We do awesome work together, both in clinics and in labs, that kind of thing, and in groups. And I also work with another group of two other groups of really high level multidimensionals. And 2 years ago, I remember one of the facilitators making the remark that the consciousness manipulation, the distortion programs that were anchored into the lunar cycle have now been undone. And this was 2 years ago, right? And I remember when I'm with this particular group, it's really trippy because I have such a hard time just staying in my body, really. It's like, but I do my best to, stay conscious while we go through these different pieces of work. But I remember when that particular session that I really had a hard time staying conscious the whole time. And I did have this question, and I typed it out, but I was completely not even, I was unconscious, as in, you go into these altered states that feel like you're sleeping. And I couldn't hear her response in any way. So it was something I only could work on the energetic. And now, 2 years later, I've digested that in such a way where it's like, oh, I totally get it. Not only do I totally get it, I can see it, So, our consciousness and the collective field, no matter, even though we want to imagine ourselves as being separate from the collective field, we are all one unit, whether we like that or not, So these openings that us as multidimensionals have been working on for so long, are being embodied right now. And that's what's unique about this particular year of the wood dragon, this particular coming year of the wood serpent, is that the collective field, the lunar field, the other geometric fields held by our celestial brothers and sisters are different. They're not distorted on the level that they have been in the past. So it's like, here is the opportunity for mankind, for the divinity of humanity to wake up to itself. Okay, so it's really, really, really cool. All right, let me go on to, all right, next comment is, how about creator beings for releasing trauma from multi-dimensional consciousness? Been working with this and it's blowing me away. Yes, exactly. This is what I mean. It's so who you are in the I'm going to say quantum realms, just to summarize, put it all under the umbrella, is not the who you think you are when you're looking in the mirror. And it's not that there can't be a connection between those consciousness, because there is, and that's what we're working at doing. That's why we do this unraveling of the inversions and the reversals and these programs, so our conscious mind can be aware of who we are as quantum beings. So now we can function from deeply connected source within versus flying blind, right? We're flying blind in so many ways. We don't remember our past lives. And many people can't even imagine something called the Akasha. You know what I mean? It's like we have to remember all these different layers to give us a different perspective, so we can start taking actions in a different way. The way humanity has been working, it's that, If you are coming in with the agreements to be working on a deep spiritual level, if you're lucky, you'll get to start as a child. Actually, very few get to start as a child. Most people would start maybe as a teenager or in their or in their 50s. You know, there's kind of like these windows of transition within the human psyche. And then if you're lucky, you get to start young. And if you do that and you're actually taught, or I'm going to say navigate things in such a way where you are in alignment with the actual truth and not the distortions, you know, it'll only take you for 4 or 5 decades to wipe out all of the unresolved stuff of the DNA ancestry and actually start living your actual purpose on why you actually incarnated here in this realm, right? Versus if you have your memories from birth, right, you know, you can instantly transmute and transform, I'm going to say alchemize all of that with your consciousness as a young child, as a toddler, you know. So that's the difference. We have all this layering in our ancestral realm, in our Akashic realm, that is distorting things. So our conscious mind that gets cultivated in a biosuit as we walk through life is completely disconnected and blinded to it. You know, settling and consciously being aware of the natural rhythms and living in harmony with that is an excellent way to start dismantling these reversals and distortions of, right? Because rhythms are really powerful. You know, if you get a really strong rhythm going and a whole group working at that rhythm, wow, is that powerful. I don't know if you guys ever travel through Latin America, but rhythm is deeply rooted in certain, I'm going to say, classes of life there. And actually, it's not even just South America, it's Central America. I have to say, when we were in Ireland, we had some experiences with that too. When the whole group, like the restaurant, get into a particular rhythm, it's like all of a sudden there's this upliftment that happens, you know. But I've had this experience a lot in like on the beach, and the El mariachis would come by and they would play a particular song that's like a classic, like a folk classic. It's like everybody's clapping along, you know, and it transforms the mood of the entire area, restaurant, beach, or, you know, wherever we're at. And, you know, so music rhythms, timing rhythms, they really do have a very significant impact on our consciousness and our connection to the feelings of self. The feelings of self are things like love, connectedness, I'm going to say community, you know, stuff like this, forgiveness, compassion. All right. Okay, so let me keep going on the rhythms here. The Gregorian calendar and the falling of the structures. Right. So she mentioned, we're going to call him Mr. T. We're going to call him Mr. T. Just because the algorithms sometimes aren't so forgiving when you start talking about that person. You know, love them or hate them, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. But what's important to realize is that, and I'm not saying I'm in favor of his character, because I feel like he is equally as dubious as Mr. Musk, you know, Mr. M. Mr. T and Mr. M are very dubious characters that I can see them being a part of an agenda. It's just that agenda is so large and so rooted in the technical terrestrial AI agenda that it is bigger than what most people see and understand. So it's off the radar as a conversation, you know. And in order for that technical agenda to get anchored in on the global level that it's intended to be, we have to have these old structures fall. That's just how it is. So if you guys remember the Bolshevik rebellion, did you guys study that in school? Now, I had family that that actually only reason why they survived was because they fled during the Great Purge that followed the rebellion. But what pretty much what it is that people want change. The collective wants change, and a character comes in, a leader comes in, and facilitates the galvanization for the revolution, for the change to happen. And then as soon as the change of power happens, then the key players that were honest and true to that purpose, they get taken out, and a new power over dynamic structure gets put into its place. It's like they hijack the rebellion. I'm just saying that because that is truly what we need to be aware of. It's not the actual rebellion itself. It's not the actual change itself. It's that watching predator or power over agenda that waits for that prime opportunity to come in and take over. That's what we need to watch out for. So, I mean, there's a lot of people still stressing about those old narratives about, you know, the women losing rights, and now all LGBTQ plus people are in danger, and, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, you know, I'm not in any of those categories. Well, I'm a woman, but I don't really feel like, I don't really believe the narrative about the rights thing. But I see that change is upon us, and those narratives are meant to create fear and to divide. So it's up to us to figure out where we want to be. As multidimensionals, we're seeing through the storylines, and perhaps even recognize the potentials. But still, we're not nearly out of the woods. And this is also beautifully orchestrated by the divine timing, in that all of this is happening during the modality of the wood in Chinese medicine. I'm not really sure where the Chinese calendar starts or when the modality changes. I'm not really, I don't know, maybe someone can look that up real quick. What sign does the Chinese calendar start? Like, when does it change to the next modality? But the wood modality particularly is all about honesty, integrity, creativity, okay? And the fact that that is a pattern of expression that is anchored within our lunar cycles, therefore our subconscious and conscious cycles, we are perfectly poised for this change to happen in a way that really does serve the betterment of humanity, really does align us, align our systems, align our government, our medical systems, all this stuff to integrity, to truth, to honesty, to the actual creativity of humanity. And that's our creativity is closely connected to our divinity as divine humans in a biosuit. Our humanity is expressed in a way, I'm sorry, I said this, our humanity is our divinity. And that is what is so precious about us, is that we are infinitely capable of imagination, of creation, of inventions. Okay, we are infinitely capable of creating and doing new things. And this is why we will always grow in consciousness versus go backwards in consciousness. Now, things have to happen in order for our consciousness to actually go backwards, such as, you know, the great the story of the great flood, for example. And you know what I find interesting about that story, I'm just gonna make a side note real quick. I don't know if you guys watched Ancient Apocalypse by Graham Hancock. Really interesting. First season especially. Second season I really couldn't get into, but the first season particularly, because he was going over the archaeological data and everything, and he was able successfully, in my opinion, paint the picture of that there was a great catastrophe that goes along with our story of the flood. But the flood narrative was in the Eastern Hemisphere. Like most of recorded history was around the Eastern Hemisphere, the Chinese, the European, African, like that realm. But then in the opposite side of the globe, the narrative what in the northern part was flooding, but in the southern part it was fire. It was a massive fire that was burning everything, destroying, incinerating everything. And that is consistent with the idea that there was a comet that came and destroyed most of the life on this planet. Now, in that instance, yes, that causes that drama, that event would cause us to revert back into survival. And it's like our going back to survival consciousness also was around the same time that the Hyperboreans talked about when they introduced the chakra system into the energy body of humanity. Now, this is interesting because some stories say that the Hyperboreans were very friendly. They were giants and they loved humanity. And others talked about them as if they were tyrants, right? Which kind of sounds like there was another, I'm going to say, society of beings that were interacting with humanity. And when the part where they were friendly, the story of the chakra system is that this was a loving gift to humanity to help us anchor past the drama and anchor more deeply into our 3D reality and heal. And it's not only healing our biosuits, but it's also healing the earth from the trauma. Okay. And those stories, the cultures that those stories come from, also talk about the earth has finally completed her healing cycle from that event. Now, when you go to other narratives, such as the story with the flooding, they're saying something very different. Oh yeah, Jackie. Okay, yeah, thank you about this snake. But I'm wondering about the modality. Like, when does, how the Western astrology cycle starts with Aries, and it goes, and once it ends with, I think it's, what's the very end? I think it's Pisces. That's the very end, and then it starts over again with Aries. That's the start over that I'm talking about with the Chinese. So if you could look that up, that would be really great, because that's when the modality is going to change, because we're going from wood dragon to wood serpent. And somewhere along the cycle of the Chinese zodiac, that modality is going to change from wood to something else. And I think it might go from wood to metal, but I'm not sure about that. I'm not an expert in that particular. I'm not that well versed in Chinese astrology. I just feel it intuitively. All right. Holding peace for all issues and actions in my work this year. Yes, there we go. Yes, we all have work to do. We all have a role to play. And this is also significant for us to wake up to, that there are so many more of us multidimensionals these days, that we are a very potent working collective now. Now, I know that the Lightworker world, the New Age world, is a lot of them are still working out their issues with competition and all that, but there are pockets of communities that have figured out how to exist in a web versus a hierarchy, and Lightbody is one of them. It's like we come together, we complement each other, we hold each other in a space that is integral. We hold each other in a space that is rooted in truth to the best that we know it, and we serve each other with reflecting the truth. So it's not about, like if you go, Dear Sister Starshine talks about, I went somewhere. Where'd I go? Oh, I went to an astrology conference. It's like, there's kind of like a lot of one-upping each other over and over again in different ways. It's just so funny how it happens. It's like in subtle conversations, sometimes not so subtle, but it's like with some of the questions that get asked, it's like people, you're trying to size you up, like, how important is this person? How important is this person in this field? Are you someone I should know? Versus just coming and really being genuine with somebody and interested in who they are and learning about them. Totally different vibe. Oh, yes. And speaking of astrology, I encourage everybody to check out the planetary encodement that's happening this Monday with Ray Ellen. She has some wonderful insights for the coming year. She is brilliant in so many ways. And, she is able to take the landscape of the different modalities of astrology and lay out the bigger picture of the soul unfolding itself. She has been practicing Western astrology, I think, for like 50 years, if not longer, and is interweaving true sky into the energy, into the field of that. And it creates a very interesting perspective. So you can start seeing the soul's journey, the unfoldment, the dance between the construct of the ego driver self as it comes into right relationship with the truth of the soul's journey, who you are as an infinite being in a biosuit, who you are as a quantum being. And the fact that she can hold these two fields and translate it in the way that she does, it's very empowering. It's a transmission. It really is. Even though it seems simple or seems like nothing in the moment, maybe nothing a lot is transmitting, but there's definitely a transmission that comes through when you bring these fields together. The rhythm of the soul's journey and the rhythm of the ego driver journey, holding those two fields in your awareness at one time creates transmissions, creates openings in one's consciousness. Okay, it really does shift one's way of thinking and viewing, and shifts your perspective. So it's a really great thing to be a part of. Oh yeah, thank you, Bev. She posted the link to that if you guys want to sign up for it. It's free. It's community service. It's something that we do. And I'll take this moment to mention other things that we do as a community service. Lightbody offers free group energy clearings. That's on the last Sunday of the month. There's also a Sasquatch initiation group for those of you having contact with Sasquatch and other Fey beings, and perhaps want to meet up with other people that are having similar experiences. She's a wonderful space holder for that. So that's also something that that is an offering. And if you guys want to dive deeper into knowing thyself, building a strong energy field, creating a good energetic hygiene practices, we have a subscription with the Lightbody teachings, and that's the Lightbody Essentials. And what's really cool about this is that there's energy mastery practices you get introduced to that are really simple and so potent, like deceptively simple, and yet so over the top potent. And this is not regurgitated, light worker anecdotal stuff. This is deeply rooted from immortal masters who have passed this down from master to initiate. Starting when I was a teenager, I was worked with a lot in my dream time, and have had different immortal masters come into my sphere and teach me things. And the things that are in the energy mastery training are all the different things that came directly from immortal masters into my sphere. So that's the kind of teachings that you're getting in that training. And then of course we get together as a group and do quantum activations. And then the real fun stuff is tracking, taking a stab, cultivating your ability to track multidimensionally with a group. Now, this is where a light worker really learns how to play well with others. They don't always play well with others, and you know who you are when I say it. And I'm not saying, that you're a bad human because of that. What I'm saying is that there's a reason that that's happening, and it's not true to who you really are. And that if you really want to step up your game in your tracking capacity, maybe you're a healer or a counselor or whatever, I encourage you to take a stab at tracking with groups of people. This is where very wise councils get together and look into the energetic quantum realms and pull out nuggets of wisdom, transformative pieces of alchemy come from things like this. You get beyond where you can go on your own. I know, there's so much to say about that, because a lot of people rely on channeled energy or channeled beings. They rely on Archangel Michael, or they rely on this, there's all sorts of channels, but there's no one can speak to the human experience as accurately and effectively as a human. That's just the bottom line. You know, when you don't have a body and you are looking at this experience, yes, you can have some profound wisdom, but it's not embodied. It's up to the channeler to embody it. And how many channelers fully embody that, right? Versus when you're with a group of people tracking, you wake up to amazing things about yourself, about energies and how they work. You know, it's really profound. You can go a lot further. All right. Jackie's reporting back with her adventure online, and she says, all right. Jackie says, go ahead. Oops. What'd I do? Everything after found this : didn't come through. Maybe there's another thing that you can, paste in. That would be really wonderful. I'm really curious. Maybe if anybody else is doing this research, where does the Chinese modality change from wood to the next element? I'm really curious. All right. Getting back. Whoa, that was a big side jaunt. So the program I'm talking about that has those 3 meetings a month is the Life Body Essentials program. And then we also do dream work, which you definitely need to be prepared for. Everything you do in Essentials prepares your energy field and your intuitive abilities for the dream work. Dreaming is wonderful work to get mastery of, because that's the capacity of actually bringing things from the quantum realms into this realm. You doing that, you being the bridge, you actually creating from your own divine nature directly. Not having to follow any formula, no rules of manifestation. No. You bring it forward directly, transmitted from your spirit directly to the you who you are behind your eyes and your body. And that is very, very powerful work. It is transformative in such a way where it's highly, highly accelerated. So that's a Dreamtime Healing Project. This is not about translating dreams. It's not about, doing anything like that. It's about tracking, taking multidimensional tracking into the dream realm, where you are bypassing the lenses of the who you think you are, which all intuitives and channels have lenses without exception. This is without exception in any way, shape, or form. Even the trance channelers, they all have a lens that this intuitive data comes through. So by working this way through Dreamtime, you are cleaning up your lens in such a way where your accuracy just becomes more and more and more on point. And your accuracy is directly connected to your authenticity. So if you have resistances to being authentically you with other people, or authentically you even with yourself, that's going to affect your lens. Okay. And this is worth speaking about, especially coming into the wood serpent year, closing up the wood dragon and going into the wood serpent year, because it's all about integrity. It's all about honesty. It's all about how to step more deeply into your authentic nature. The more authentic we are with ourselves initially, and then with the rest of the world, the more humanity retakes this reality for the truth, what's in our spirit. We retake this reality in such a way we actually become the keepers that we were meant to be. We were meant to be keepers of this reality. When I say this reality, I'm talking about this, what we call 3D reality. This 3D reality has been hijacked with stuff that's of lies, of inversions and reversals of the higher truth of who we are as infinite beings in a biosuit. So the more we step into our authenticity, the more we reclaim that birthright, and we create things that are in alignment with spirit and the truth, right? And the more we retake this reality and turn it into a reality that nurtures our spirit versus shuts it down. You guys, we were, from generation to generation, every culture across this planet, with very few, there are exceptions, but very, very few exceptions, we are trained from parent to child in such a way where we're feeding things that are not true to who we really are. There's a great study, actually just in modern era with our education system, a great example I'm trying to remember the name of the study, where I think they were trying to figure out like what makes a genius a genius. And when they were testing fifth graders, no, kindergartners, they were testing kindergartners, more than half the class were all genius level. They had very high IQs, they were super curious, very, very creative, really smart. And then they followed them up in third grade, and that number was cut in half. And then they followed them up in, I think, sixth grade, and that number again was cut in half. And by the time they graduated high school, of this class where most the kids where more than half the kids were genius level, there was only like one genius level in the entire class upon graduation. And this study was pointing to the reality of how our school system, the traditional school system that we have going on here, is dumbing our children down. It's quite literally stealing their curiosity and creativity from them. You know, it's wearing them down where they are no longer at the capacity of being that creative genius. Okay, so that's one of many examples culturally of how things are set up for us to work against ourselves and undo our creative genius, undo our divinity, undo our connection to our infinite source of creativity. Okay, so imagine getting to reclaim all that and living a life from that space, what this planet would be. Right? What would this planet be? Just imagine. And just you being willing to take a moment to imagine what that might be, you're doing something. You are you're putting out a frequency out into the collective. And when you do it, and when I do it, and other people in your sphere do it, or if you even take it into dream time, we are that much closer to bringing the morphic field of that reality to our reality. And as soon as we start working with that in such a way where we're reorganizing the frequency inside of ourselves to be frequency match for that, now we are actually magnetizing that reality via our life force energy to come to pass. At that point, all that needs to happen is aligning our actions to allow that to come forward, you know. So our creativity, our powers of birthing and manifestation are really going to play a big part in our journey through the frequencies of wood serpent this coming year. So wrap things up the best you can in relationship to Cosmic Mother and the Cosmic Mother Dragon frequency. Remember honesty, integrity, creativity. That's the theme with Cosmic Mother frequency. And you will be so wonderfully poised to, I'm going to say, to have a successful anchoring of that frequency in the 3D human realm. Okay, I think a message came in that had something about when the modalities start over. So I'm going to go ahead and check that out. Chinese elements. All right, and the element associated changes every 2 years, cycling through the 5 elements. Okay, so all right, so it doesn't say which sign it changes on, but it talks about a journey through each element every 2 years. Actually, I know that's not true. It's every year. And I only know that because oh, wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. That might be my youngest daughter and my husband both are the same modality of dragon. I think they're both metal dragons. And they are 24 years apart. Okay, so yes, this could be true. All right. Sorry, guys. I don't believe anything I read. I always have to have some kind of association, corroboration in my own experience, or some other reference to say, yeah, okay, something corroborative for me to be like, okay, I'll accept that. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so dear Sister Jackie got back to us too. All right, we're going to wrap up with getting the answer to the big question. All right. All right. So February, the wood dragon, snake, horse. Okay. So all right. So the modality changes in February 2026 with the fire horse. That's when the China and okay. Now that is interesting because 2026, guys, is when the real moving, shaking, and grooving, where we can actually see in this reality the changes that have happened. And I think it's so poetic that it's in the form of fire and horse. You guys, horse is a really powerful energy. There's so many expressions cosmically and earthbound narratives that talk about the power that a horse brings to the human experience. You know, horses, the introduction to horses have changed entire cultures, you know. So that's very cool. Thank you, Jackie. You got it. You answered the question for us. All right. And then Felicia says, yes, learning to use multidimensional lenses is the ride of the true realities I have just become acquainted with lately. There is so much growth and expansion. I love it. Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. If you can hang on to your innocence and genius, the genius is saved. Okay, that's a recommendation, a closing recommendation from our dear sister Starshine, Felicia. Yes, yes, yes. And there was a lot of reclamation of innocence going on, even in 2023 and 24. I remember in our group, because we meet three times a month to track into dream times as groups, and that is something that many of us have embraced. Okay, and we're going to close up with a movie recommendation. Eve and the Fire Horse. Eve and the Fire Horse. For those of you, I don't know if you guys had the same issue I do. I really am so sick of the over the top sex and violence and I just like Game of Thrones, for example. I couldn't watch it. It was too violent, too much sex. But you know what I found? You know how they do recaps? I just found a YouTube video that's like an hour and a half long, and it goes from season 1 to season 8, all recap. And that definitely gave me pleasure, because I liked the story. I just didn't like all the sex and violence. So I got to experience the story without all the sex and violence. It was great. So anyway, so if you're looking for a movie that's not full, hopefully it's not full of sex and violence. I'm just assuming because it's coming from Laurel that it's not. There you go. There's a great recommendation. And actually, you know, I think we should get a movie list together that is something that is appropriate, or I say preferable for us multidimensionals that really want, if we're going to watch a movie, we want to be entertained, encouraged, and uplifted, and not freaking, you know, programmed and traumatized. All right, darlings, thank you so much for being here in this conversation. I really appreciate sitting with you guys and sharing these thoughts. Let me know if any of this was helpful. You can, you know, comment in the comment section of the video. And yeah, and of course, like and subscribe. That really helps us get the word out. And we're going to be revisiting our relationship to social media this year, because we're realizing there's a lot more people that really would benefit from the work that we do. And just, you know, we're just kind of like organically doing things. I don't do ads or anything like that. And we're just revisiting how to move forward with our social media outreach work, so more people can benefit from the message, but also benefit from this, you know, the community service work that we do. I mean, those clearings, those energetic clearings, for example, those are absolutely phenomenal, you know. And then of course the other things. So yeah, so go ahead, like, subscribe if you like what this is, and please share a comment with a good movie that you know that's not full of sex and violence. I would love to see. I would love to visit that. All right, guys, thank you. Happy entry into the Gregorian calendar 2025, and I hope you guys make it a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.